live. Welcome back to another night of Trudvang. So welcome to Upturned Table. I'm Jeremy, and we're going to take some more look at the setting, this time with the art book. This was a book that was produced, a collection that was produced by Common for the Trudvang Legends board game release. It took them a while to complete that board game, so it's nice they had some time to work on these. So the other thing that they produced was this that we read from in previous streams. This is the kind of omnibus compilation book of all of the Trudvang role-playing game releases that Riot Minds had done. So this includes everything except the bestiary. Let me get this camera a little bit away from the table so I'm not shaking it on you. There we go. Let's try that. That's better. A little bit. All right. And yeah, so this is a collection. This is all of the magic use equipment, everything. So basically the player's handbook, the game master's handbook, and then all of the sources for magic and equipment. So the game is playable from this, but it's not an easy system to work with. And it's not even like, I don't know, it's its own thing. If you're curious about it, take a look. The books are still out there. But yeah, it's its own thing. But tonight, we're going to look at this collection, the Fabulous Art of Trudvang. So there are some excerpts that we've already read from some of the other source books, but there's also a lot of commentary about the inspirations for the setting and the looks, like the real world inspiration for some of the races and the different nations of Trudvang. So let's take a look and see. Oh, let's check the back real quick. Oh yeah, no text on the back, just the tree. But yeah, so this was, yeah. So Guillotine Press, Come On, and Riot Minds are all, all involved in this. All right. Yeah, so this was a special book that they produced. I don't know if it's available. I didn't see an ISBN number or a barcode, so I don't think this was produced outside of the campaign. So this will be a nice chance. This art is produced in other places, but I don't believe the commentary and things are. So the Fabulous Art of Trudvang. So here are all the artists that we'll look at their work. So of course, Paul Bonner does a lot of the cover work, and I was surprised in video and photos of him how large he works. He works surprisingly large. That's why his paintings have such wonderful detail. Alvaro Tapia, who also works with Free League and does a lot of their pencil work. He looks like he can really produce, and they do a lot of that kind of earthen toned, sepia toned pencil work of his stuff. Justin Sweet, Jonas Valentin, Niklas Brandt, Ola Larsen, who works with Chaosium. I think they did the 50th anniversary release for Chaosium, where they did the new Keeper's screen and the new slipcase and covers. I think Ola did those. And Per Hjongren. All right, so let's start with the foreword and see what Riot Minds has to say about their creation. Since the very start, the very first drawing, the very first word, we fell in love with Trudvang, and the world has become a companion, a friend to our adventures. In imagination, for many years, what started with a short story about the enchanted and sinister forest of Wildheart grew into a fantastic, rich world named Trudvang. To a large extent, we could not have created Trudvang without some serious help from some of the best artists out there. Their truly unique design and concept created a fantasy world that we believe is something unchallenged in this genre. First and foremost, this book is a tribute to all of them, but also to those who spent endless hours carving out this world with our pens. With just a small team and a bunch of enthusiastic freelancers, we created tons and tons of text that have given context and substance to all of these fantastic illustrations, and vice versa. We've learned that a small team can really create something of high value if the spirit and the vision is sincere and uncompromised. Even though this book is filled with illustrations from various top talented artists, we especially want to give our thanks to two of them, Paul Bonner and Alvario Tapia. Paul for his fantastic and detailed covers and his ability to work closely with us and share our vision, truly share our vision. Alvaro for his one-of-a-kind skill and a talent to set the design for the world. Without Alvaro Tapia, Trudvang would have been just another generic fantasy world. Oh, wow. And then we have some words from Paul Bonner. Let's see. Oh, yeah. No, it does go into, it is all Trudvang related. So let's go through this as well. And here's what I was talking about. Look how large he works for his paintings. So that's where all that wonderful detail comes from. All right. So words from a master, Paul Bonner. When I first came to Denmark, some 20-plus odd years ago, the internet that so dominates and dictates our lives today had not yet provided the instant fingertip access to the infinite visual feasting, or the prospects of infinite job possibilities by catapulting one's art anywhere on the planet with the click of a keyboard. So I was caught paying the bills by painting socially conscious book covers for adolescent Danes. After having come directly from the universe where there is only war, usually in the form of suitably well-armed orcs, rampantly and gleefully spreading chaos and destruction against a backdrop of chaos and destruction. This was quite a cultural shock for my artistic sensibilities. Happily for me, my journey to an artistic Ragnarok was averted by a telephone call. Remember those? From a Theodore Bergqvist in Sweden, asking me if he would if I would like to paint a cover for Riot Mind's Realm of Trudvang. This would ideally consist of a bunch of dwarves fighting a bunch of goblins in a deep, dark forest. He didn't have to throw anything else in the mix to elicit an enthusiastic yes. Goblins, dwarves, and deep, dark forest tend to do it for me. So I agreed and got painting. That was the very first of many paintings done for Riot Minds over the last 14 years. Though I could happily have sat and painted endless variations on goblins, dwarves, forest themes, I soon found out that their vision encompassed a lot more than that. The realms of Trudvang are portrayed in the role-playing game of Drakar och Demoner is full of rich variety of peoples, creatures, animals, and demons. But what I feel sets Trudvang apart from the countless other similar worlds is that it seems to draw on and use as a starting point the very rich, intricate, and haunting folk memories of Sweden and the other Scandinavian countries, from a time when trolls, dvargs, Helhast, Jarndrek, Drog, and Logadrek were not only just fireside tales passed on from one generation to the next, but were believed in as real entities as to be supplicated where possible, whispered about secretly, and usually just plain avoided. Trudvang's inhabitants seem to retain that link to the folk memory. Trolls do what you would expect them to do. Dwarves behave very dwarvishly. Dragons lurk and skulk. Demons can be a bit feisty, but that's what demons do. If there is magic in the world of Trudvang, it tends towards the more shamanistic side of things. Always much more believable than the dark-browed mages and sorcerers hurling multicolored fireballs at each other, and damn the consequences. The dragons inhabiting Trudvang consist of several distinct species, and tend not to strut around proudly in coats of shining red or glistening gold scales. Here, they lean towards the gnarled, scarred look that shows them as animals with a past, bearing the scars, wounds, wear, and tear that life has given them. Organic is one of my favorite and overused words when trying to describe something I might like in someone else's art, or trying to explain my own motivations. Its use can't be avoided in the world of Trudvang. Everything seems to stem from something else. have connections to everything else, right down to the roots of the mountains and trees. A lot of this comes from the beautiful drawings of Alvaro, whose work was and is the biggest influence in capturing the feel of Trudvang. His creatures are completely original, and yet seem to prod at some kind of shared recognition. They just look right, believable. They are never garish, overstated, or fall off into cliché. His creations exist to fulfill a function in Trudvang, and always look as if they were more than capable of doing just that. It has always been an inspiration to work alongside his drawings, and been only too easy to incorporate and steal some of his ideas and details into my own paintings. An equally big pleasure has been the art direction from Theo, or rather complete lack of it. It would mainly consist of a couple of sentences along the lines of, "You're thinking of something with possibly a tundra-like landscape, with possibly a guy on a horse and possibly some goblins. What do you think?" Well, that's my kind of art direction. Suits me fine. But he's always happy to enlarge upon his ideas or inject a few specifics if all that freedom leads me feeling a bit lost. In the 14 years of painting, he has never, not once, asked for a color rough, not a quick sketch, not even a scribble. I've sent him one or two progress shots, but they just provoke enthusiastic encouragement. It's a bit frightening when I think about it, that level of faith. I have nothing against art direction or even art directors. It's a very necessary thing. Theo, Alvaro, and I seem to be branches on the same pine tree in the same forest. I like to think that freedom that is just given to us is reflected in the art of Trudvang. The realm of Trudvang is one that I am proud to be part of, and one that I am more than eager to continue exploring and roaming around in with brushes and paints in my backpack, although taking care never to stray too far from a sturdy tree to climb or a fair-sized rock to hide behind. Paul Bonner. So that's probably from, I think when they stopped, maybe like 2017, 18. Wow, there's no date on it. Oh, yeah, and so here's the first, and there was a mention, there was the mention in their introduction. I guess that the Wild Heart story, there was a short story called Wild Heart that was the inspiration that led them to all of this, to making an actual complete setting. All right, so let's go through and see this, because I don't think we've looked at this source. I think there was too much kind of set up for the game, too many spoilers, so hopefully this will just be a little bit of inspiration and not spoil any of the actual adventure. The Legend of Wild Heart. Born in light, raised in darkness, Wild Heart for eternity. There was once a man who carried a seed to a forest. It was the only seed of copper oak in all of Trudvang. This particular type of forest only grew in the part of the land where the man came from. There, the forests were living beings, and its wisdom was the source of innermost magic. After long journeys in the new land, the man came to a place which reminded him of the land in which he himself had grown up. Its rock-filled soil smelled the same. Its cold but fresh winds blew forth with the same power, and the mountains that towered in the west had the same beautiful lines as the mountains that he had carried in his heart. In this place he sowed his only seed of copper oak. He named the forest Wild Heart, after his father. For thousands of seasons, Wild Heart kept its secret, as most forests do. With its leisurely slowness, it watched the world pass it by. Heroes came and heroes went, and the oldest trees in the forest only became older and older, without anyone really noticing. The wars came, one after another, and burial cairns were raised between the mighty tree trunks. The suppressed and the religious were driven into the shadows of the forest. There, statues and temples were raised for the new gods, and there, Powers of dark and light were called upon, but nothing seemed to faze Wildheart. The forest watched as everything faded away, to become one more of the many memories which it carried. But then came the day when Wildheart got a taste for blood. Dragon blood. In the past, the forest had been beautiful to behold. The wanderers who walked its paths were filled with awe over the grandeur of the forest and swore by its beauty. Loneliness turned Wildheart hard, and the blood that ran down into its soil wore down the dreams of the forest, just like the ocean's waves wore down the edges of the cliffs. With the blood came greed and hatred. With those two came evil and bitterness. One fed the other, and Wildheart grew stronger on what was brought to its borders. Few dare to venture below the forest's embracing branches. None return. For as long as the inhabitants of the East can remember, the myth and the enigma of Wildheart has grown ever stronger. Around warm fires and encompassing darkness, you can hear the story of Wildheart in most homes. No one knows the full power and secret of the forest. Some speak of buried treasure, others of ancient settlements filled with magic and powers of trolls. Most whisper of malicious death and forest that devours the soul of the wanderer. All right. So welcome to the world of Trudvang. So I think this introduction appears on a lot of their marketing, but we'll go through it. Trudvang is a world of tales and legends, deep woods and moss-covered stones, lurking trolls and wild rivers, where nature, rather than dungeons, is the center of the setting. The world is imbued with great mystique, but also a certain melancholy and sadness. Unlike many other fantasy worlds, Trudvang has gained a strong sense of the ancient Nordic traditions. Great sources of inspiration have been the classic painter John Bauer and his works, the Finnish national epos Kalevala, and the epic tale of Beowulf, the British tales of Mabinogion, and to a great extent the Nordic myths and legends. All right, they start with the Stormlanders, and I think this is the text from the source book, but I think there's another paragraph that shows that talks about the inspiration, kind of the designer's notes. Yeah, but this is the style of Arotapia, this pencil work that has a nice kind of earthy sepia color to it, and so really fleshed out a unique identity for each of the human nations, the human countries and races. Oh yeah, here we go. The Stormlanders were the first people produced for Trudvang, and even though it's easy to think that they were just another Vikingish barbarian kin, we came to mix both old Slavic tales and folklore together with Mongolian mythos and culture to create a people with more depth than just the ordinary barbarians. At the center of the Stormlandic culture, we put a faith, Gurbanis, and several gods and deities, both good and evil, and hence Gurbanis came to be the glue that holds together the barbarian culture. While developing the Stormlandic race, we also gave it a touch of mysterious heritage, a people that came from the sea long ago, which really gave it some more depth and also something to develop in further books. To add some more flavor, the Stormlanders let both Thronelanders and elves put their print on their lands. Nice, so some mixed inspiration. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, there's your Mongolian influence. Beautiful. Oh, and here's the all of the different. Are these the cities? These are the lands. Yeah, Vastland, Idgeland. Yeah. So kind of icons representing each of the areas. A nice decorative braid. Nice. Is that a dead giant, it looks like? With the crows feeding off of him. Yeah, nice work. And the finish on this paper is nice. I hope it shows up well in the camera. There we go. A nice troll. Yeah, nice 2-page. Oh, and that's right. And each of the figures, so the nice thing they do is they credit all of the artists to each of the pages and illustrations. So Shield Maidens in figure 1, and a blood gifting. So yeah, the Gorbanis is the blood sacrifice, right? So a lot of lotteries to sacrifice blood. But the elves, I think, did that as well in this setting. So a lot of, blood sacrifice. And again, these posts with the sacrifice in them. Well, it looks like they're raiding Muspelheim. Yeah, looting and plundering. It looks like Muspelheim. And a worm. Yeah, I like the way that the dragons are portrayed, all gnarled and not flashy, and kind of beaten, beaten and aged, broken teeth, and damaged wings, and sinking with your horse into the swamps. Nice, the Gorbanis Dimwalker. So, yeah, in the 5e adaptation and even the board game, they kind of simplify, Dimwalkers into kind of clerics that can be light or dark, and then weavers into more straightforward magic users. But I think it's much more complicated, and definitely in the RPG, it wasn't so straightforward. So hopefully, Dragonbane can handle that, making interesting choices with the magic users. More Stormlands. All right. The Wild Folks. Dark Minds, Dark Hearts. So I'll just read the commentary because I think... oh, no, this is commentary as well. So with the Stormlanders, as the fierce and barbaric race of Trudvang, we ask ourselves how we would present the Wild Folks and do them justice. Do we just make them darker and more sinister? That could work, but we had to give it more flesh and bone. First, we gave them a belief and a religion that truly justified why they act as they do. Secondly, we decided to use the concept of being remote, far away from all others, on the steep sides of the Iron Mountains, or in the deepest of all woods. In these remote places, they truly had a chance to develop a darker side of Stormlandic persona. To tie the wild folks together with beasts and animals gave them a much more brutal and wild touch to further set them apart from the Stormlanders. Nice. So still, maybe common ancestry from the first races that came, but just like the elves, they divided. And riding the beasts, the Garm. Wow, nice. Thorn beasts. Yeah, so much more furs and bones, and a much bigger connection to riding. Yeah, nice. Nice piece. Yeah, much more death imagery. I wish this had a title. It looks like a giant's head that they're in a severed, rotting, festering giant's head they're pouring something into. Meatlanders, heirs from the past. So honor, heroism, and bravery were the cornerstones that when crafting the Midlanders. We had not yet developed the idea of a more chivalric part of the world when looking into Midland, and at the same time we had to develop something that was far from barbarians, yet avoid men in shining armor. The old British tales of Mobanogian came to be a big source of inspiration, especially when modeling the mythos around Midlanders. The gods and goddesses, even the idea that nature has a force of its own, became the center, just like we put Gerbanus in the middle of the Stormlandic culture. We liked the idea of a single hero, and everything that could be built around such a concept. Songs, poems, tales, and a major part of the Midlandic tradition came to focus on heroism and the culture that surrounds a hero. However, just like Stormlanders, such a culture had to derive from something. We created a story about a hero in a long-forgotten past who had to flee his land and seek a new haven, about how he killed his best friend and how he set off on a long journey. Actually, this part of the Midlandic story really gave it the depth it needed, as well as adding a big part of the Trudvang melancholy that had come to be characteristic of the setting. In this story, we detailed how the Lindworm came to be worshipped after one of the heroes was killed and transformed into a Lindworm himself. Wow. So more horse-based and more steep steplands than mountains. Nice. Yeah, much more heroic and more horse-based, more heavy armor. Vimmershold. The art of storytelling. Nice. Yeah, I like how they represent songs and sagas playing such an important role in the cultures. Worshipping the Lindworm. Nice. Yeah, I forget in one of the stories that I looked at, there was a kind of an albino, a pale white worm that was a focus of worship. Dund Beedhider. Looking very centaur. Wow. Oh, wow. Is that a city structure? So the center and the surroundings. Oh, nice design. Some more medieval city structure. Oh, so these are all Brant. I see, so they're using the same sepia tone, but I think a lot of the maps and castles and houses and buildings are I think Justin Brant. And more of the different lands, different countries making up the Midland. Meglon, the burial of a hero. Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah, that's the one thing that when we read the kind of compilation in the omnibus book, it didn't have the same structure and go into the same things like the diet of the humans and the funeral rites and festivals. So we covered that with the elves and dwarves, but not as much with Stormlanders and wild, the Midland and other wild human cultures. The Griffin attack. Yeah, a lot more horses in Midland. And another funeral for a hero, Moglin. The Moglin on ritual. Oh, wow, they even sacrifice a horse? Yikes. Yeah, looks like a horse head and a horse body. Wow. Virons. Pen and sword. No shining armors, no fancy swords, and no silk robes, yet knights of Trudvang. These were the parameters we set up before starting to work on Vestermark. We had to dig deep into the Alemannic early medieval traditions to have something that could inspire us enough in developing the Knights of Trudvang. So instead of shining armor and fancy swords, we gave the knights a touch of early crusaders from Germany and tweaked them into something that could fit the rest of the world. Dark ringmail, studded leather, heavy helmets, spiked clubs, and morning stars all came to symbolize the Trudvang Knights of the West. However, just like the other parts of the setting, the Westmarkians had to have shared roots and something that connected them with each other. We decided that knowledge and the power of said knowledge should be important, something they valued much higher than brute force or heroism. The source of knowledge came from Gave, the one God, that had sacrificed himself for all people to save them, but also to give them the enlightenment they need to educate themselves. The tenets of need was the full religion and concept developed to connect the Westmarkians with each other, and also provided a powerful force that they would use to influence other parts of the world. So Vestermark and their tenets of need. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, so dark armored knights on horses. More troll work. There's a priest of need preaching. Yeah, so the one God, yeah, so less pagan, less, pre-Christian, more of a Christian feel to their organization of their culture. Less nature based. Yeah, so armored but not, knights in shining armor. Soj, the Elven Lands. Actually, it was a freelancer, Magnus Setter, who came up with the very first idea for the Elves of Trudvang. He wrote a small piece in Jorge's Bistarium that came to set the tone for the whole race. Magnus had the great idea of describing why elves were so melancholic and turned away from the rest of the world. And I think I read that Magnus is working on the Free League version, the Dragonbane version. So we'll see. We'll have more of his writing. So hopefully there'll be some nice development for the elves. So the answer is time. And the way he described it was that there was once a time where the elves lived with their gods, but for various reasons these gods decided to leave, and the elves and instead tied them to Trudvang. Thus, every day in the future increased the distance between the elves and their gods. Digging deeper into the elves, giving them more flesh and bone, we decided to give them Finnish names and to some extent also design. Korpi means wilderness in Finnish, and the wild elves or dark elves were given the name Korpikali. Yeah, I noticed lots of Finnish naming conventions. Nice. And also it looks like almost Native American inspiration for the design, especially of the dark elves. Not the dark-skinned ice elves, but they seem to have more Native American First Nations type inspiration. Nice. The Stone of Knowledge. Oh, that's right. Yeah, talking about the sharing of knowledge. There was some contact between elves and both humans and dwarves to share their ancient knowledge. Yeah, the Illuminati. So these are the Star Elves, the Corpicoli, the Dark Elves, the more Native American influenced. So they turned away from the gods. They are still seeking the gods. And then the Ice Elves are a mixture of the two. Yeah, and these are, in this case, they're more noble and detached, but they're also smaller than humans. Wow, nice. Wow, so much great art for this setting. I guess it's been a while since they first came up with it, first to do the Swedish version and then the American version of the role-playing game. I'm just glad we get to see this. I'm glad that Sweden kind of opened up and started translating into English some of their work, or we would never see any of this art. The Returning of the Dead. Yeah, so we talked about the burial rites of weaving the dead into trees. The Guarding of the Yggdrasirs. Yeah, so the the guards of the Yggdrasil. Yeah, really interesting visual inspirations and combinations. Muspelheim, Fire and Dust. All right. Yeah, so this is the dwarves. Yeah, the dwarves description. So earth carries stone without a murmur, and so does the dwarf. Dwarves are not afraid of change in the way elves are. So here's the notes. Here's the design notes. It all started with a helmet. Theodore Bergqvist had the idea of making a mix of a traditional samurai and a fire brigade helmet. He made a rough sketch and placed it in the hands of Alvaro over a beer at the favorite pub in Stockholm. After a few weeks in his home studio, Alvaro came out with the most astonishing concept of dwarf armor, and that the world has seen. From that armor, we created the dwarven race and mythology, giving it the Bonner-esque style and touch. Let there be no question that Paul Bonner loves dwarves. Yeah, so the three dwarven races. Let's see, do we have the armors? Yeah, they haven't shown the armor yet. Nice. Yeah, a lot of these were covers for the Trudvang role-playing books. There we go. Yeah, there's the helmet that they're talking about. Yeah, so there is some, kind of samurai inspiration, and yeah, very interesting. The Murgli, yeah, so the helmet, faceplate, chest plate, that's all kind of one piece of armor. Armoring the Zvarda. Yeah, and very Paul Bonner proportions. That's interesting in the miniatures, because their miniatures for the board game were based on the inspiration from the illustrations. There is an interesting kind of variety between traditional looking fantasy dwarves and then also the more, Paul Bonner-esque proportions. And the Zvarda, the more like troll, they're thought that they are dwarves with troll blood. So they have that heavier look. Yeah, these guys, the fully armored Zvarda. And the Zvarda Trident of Grimm's Blood. Nice. Yeah, these are great. They look like war machines, these large armored dwarves. So here we go. Yeah, here's the Zvarda dwarf with the heavy armor. The Baracha, deep mines, the great forgers. Yeah, they live near the lava, so they're always kind of dirty and ashy from living near the magma flows. And here's the Muspelheim. Some of the layouts for the underground strongholds in Muspelheim, the great throne of Novskorsk. And so, yeah, they just determined that this rock is to be a throne, and that's how it gets carved. Dwarven Brothers. Oh, yeah, here's more examples of the Murgli, the armor sets. And dwarves with spears fighting a dragon. Oh, great work. Oh, and here's a Larson, yeah. So Larson does the, Ola Larson does the painted stuff as well, but has less of the flair and design. Like, you can definitely tell the difference between his work and Paul Barner's work. But I think he tries to, follow some of the kind of character models and things. But yeah, he does nice big painted pieces as well. In 2014. Wow, more than 10 years ago, almost 12 years ago now. Oh yeah, and the boars, the tunnel boars. And the delicious mushrooms. Nice. Wow. Bull troll. Yeah, this is great. Almost the chaos dwarf, type of design. Even the mantic dwarves, their abyssal dwarves, have this kind of Abyssinian look. The tall helmets. The Baracha forging and their Logi furnace. The treasure chambers. Yeah, I liked the explanation of dwarven greed. It's not greed. They just make stuff and then they put it in its place, which is in their vaults. Oh, great. Great stuff. Everything is locked up. Nice. Oh, wow. Trolls and dwarves in dark forests. Oh, and bows too. Yeah, they talked about Trudvang dwarves using bows just as much as anything else. And especially that they're much more defensive, so they'll loose volleys of arrows. Oh, here we go. Here's some dwarven weapons. So yeah, swords and bows are known to come, but also, pickaxes and some variations of axes aren't the only thing. Yeah, wow, great weapons designs. Spears and polearms. Oh, and here's the classic map of Trudvang. Yeah, I wish they would have. Hopefully, we'll get a redo of the font. They chose the worst Helvetica type font for labeling the worlds. But I like that it's on like a piece of wood. It looks like it's painted on an old piece of wood. Feitner, the magic weaver. Magic in Trudvang truly differentiates itself from magic found in other fantasy games. In Trudvang, magic, or Vitnar as it is called, is down-to-earth, gritty, and uncertain. We guess Paul Bonner would call it organic. Magic in Trudvang is something you weave, something you work with your hands, and something that is the effect of what's around you. It's like turning the stones on a farm field or blowing into the fire to make it burn. When developing the concept for magic in Trudvang, we decided early on not to get too deep into throwing fireballs and lightning, but rather to send a flock of crows or bind together two trees to create a portal into another dimension. Alvaro Tapia understood this precisely and came up with some of the greatest and most organic illustrations of magic we've ever seen. So here's some runes. And then, yeah, runic magic. Nice. Oh yeah, I think this is the white worm from the adventure. On the dwarven stone field gaze. All right. Galding, shaping Vintner with sound. Fjording, shaping Vintner with thought. Yeah, all of these became miniatures in the board game, all of these illustrations. Weavers of Vintner. Yeah, so a big variety, and you can see from like dark to light kind of inspiration. So all, using magical force, but some of it, forces of death and forces of decay, which they just, simplified in the 5e conversion. Oh, wow. Very cool. Yeah. That's a Valentine, another nice Valentine piece. And the big snout of a worm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here's the branched portal. Gastlalakja, a spell of summoning. Bestamal, spell of speaking to animals. Hanging with the harpies. Oh, wow. Yeah, turning the rider to stone. Yeah, there's the crows. Casting like a murder of crows. Bones. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, really great. Kind of more original looks for magic spells. Yeah, manipulating earth and fire. Nice. Yeah, really nice. Deep in the forest. Give me goblins fighting dwarves in the forest and a magic user that looks like this, Theodore Berkvist said as he handed Paul Bonner a picture of the Valamoian from the Finnish epos Kalevala for the first cover painting for the game. We grew very fond of the character, and he came to end up in many of the covers down the road. One could say that he became the Gandalf of Trudvang. Yes, there he is. It's the magic user they're talking about. Nice. So yeah, a whole party of dwarves fighting goblins, and one magic user that looks like this, with a braided beard. Yeah, so let's keep an eye out for his recurrence. So a beard with no mustache, it looks like. A long white beard and a cap with a staff. Oh, yep, there he is again. More dwarves. Yeah, this looks like later that day. Their journey through the forest. So I wonder if there's a miniature of him. There must be. They faithfully reproduced a lot of the illustrations. Deities and demons, the other side. It's pretty easy to develop a physical fantasy world just like our own, but to connect it with its mythology, races, religions, and history of such a world, and to actually present a full cosmology and overview is a separate thing altogether. However, we knew early on that if Trudvang should be a believable setting, we also had to describe the world of gods, the dead, and everything in between. Trudvang is one of 3 worlds existing in this universe. The other 2 are called Dimhal and Sarvisa. Sarvisa is Elvish and actually means the other side, which is where one goes after death. Dimhal is a place between life and death. Dimhal and Sarvisa consist of hundreds, maybe thousands of different places and smaller kingdoms. Dimhal, for example, consists of Helgard, Bloodheim, Risterhall, while Servisa consists of Othwa, Himhall, and Stormvak. Some claim that there is a fourth world, Raudins, the world of dawn, the world of destiny. They say the ones who have not yet been born, but who have already received a fate, exist in Raudins. Nice. Yeah, I like that there's still so many questions, and even how the text in a lot of the source books was written. Some say, some think, so it's not concrete, and because some of the history is so old, it's passed down orally, it gets confused. So there are these possibilities that could lead them to doing, other source books and things. I like that. Mogunda. Belgard has 5 watchmen of divine status. They are all siblings named Morgun, Morgunda, Morgrand, and Modgil. Together, they each guard a gate to the realm of death. Morgunda is possibly the most famous, partly because he has a significant role in the myth of destruction, and partly because he wields the mighty sword Nailbite, a sword said to be made of the nails of dead men. Yeah, that could be it. Bodvilder is the queen and mistress of Helgard. She rules a constantly growing realm of death and is the most feared god in Gerbanis, alongside Stormy and Helfrig. Her power is so great that she ties ghosts to her sides and shackles ancient dragons with her glance. It is said that she creates the 5 watchmen by luring old creatures from time's murky womb to give them divine status. Baldvinder wears the invisible sword Unskirnir. Sorry. Unskirnir. A sword that can never be broken and is completely weightless. Grim. Morgul. So here's all the guardians. Nice. Gods of Chaos. The powerful and revered storm gods are not alone in the Gerbanian mythology. Their enemies and the source of disorder, which risks devouring all worlds, are called chaos gods or Verglift, chaos lives. These gods live in Vergelmir, a roaring cauldron from which all storm winds swirl up. The more they stir the pot, the stronger the storm. In the pot, chaos gods boil the heads of all the people who fail to get through the storm when they die. The fire world, Surtkop, is located under the kettle and is the warmth of this world that makes the pot boil. Wow. A pot of boiling heads. Nice. Wow. Yeah, nice scale. Volokia. The Dark Dwellers. Oh, yeah, these are the golem-like creations, I think, of the dwarves and of the dimwalkers. Nice. Wow, great illustrations. Gadorm. Oh, this looks very similar to the the devil. The devil that's trying to break through in Dragonbane. The demon. Skinskapa, another demon. Yeah, it was interesting reading through the bestiary. There's a lot of overlap because it's using the Scandinavian folklore in Vaesen and Dragonbane and Trudvang in a lot of their inspirations and naming conventions and things. Trolls. Lurking in the shadows. Trolls play an essential role in Scandinavian culture and mythos. At the very first iteration of the first monster book, we actually had orcs as the main foe and cannon fodder for the players to battle. However, after a short reminder from our layout editor at the time, Dan Alstrand, we decided to scrap the orc and go all in with the trolls. Yeah, that really does differentiate the setting. Hence came the trolls, in many shapes and sizes, to become the backbone of the monster book. Together with dragons and the giants, Alvaro Tapia designed some of the best trolls I've ever seen, and was true to the Scandinavian versions of trolls. The kind of trolls that are cunning, deceiving, unreliable, and have a greed for gold and treasure. Yet, to date, we have not seen a similar take on trolls in any game, and of course we're happy to see that the design and the take on trolls is truly unique. Nice. Yeah, nice Paul Bonner piece. Greedy trolls, king troll, looks like. King troll. Another king troll, a couple of king trolls. Yeah, the larger, more intelligent variety that I think are actually magic as well. They can cast spells. Yeah, that was a good idea to go all in with trolls and many varieties. The fuel trolls, so a lot of nature guardians and very different levels of intelligence and brutishness. Grey trolls. The Girl and the Magic Pearl. Oh, that might be an illustration for a story. Goblins. Troll and his treasure. Yeah, nice. Herm troll with the big tusks. Ice trolls and wild folks. Oh yeah, there's a painted version of this as well. Nice. Yeah, I've seen a nice, fully fleshed out painting. Same composition with the ice trolls. Everybody beating up a troll. The cover of your first adventure, first big monster fight. Nice. The ogre. The forest troll. Throwing rocks down. Yeah, we had plenty of that. Trolls throwing rocks. Troll rider. Well, riding a reindeer. Yeah, nice. Giants. Spawn of the mountains. In Norse mythology, the giants fight a constant battle with the gods. Thor, Odin, and other gods fight and battle with giants on a consistent basis. So, with the roots from Scandinavian saga and mythology, it was easy for us to just dig deep into the sources and pick and choose whatever giants we needed. However, in what we feel was a pretty interesting alteration, we gave each giant a set of abilities and features that connected them with the elements. For example, frost giants, Hurmtosir, bear great horns upon their icy heads, and also a frost body that radiates cold like a defense. It's also an old myth that giants carry gold in their stomachs, so we developed that myth further. The first really major villain in Trudvang was actually the frost giant Blodauga. The story of him, together with Paul Bonner's fantastic paintings of Blodauga, rather set the tone for the giants of Trudvang. Yeah, he's wonderful. Oh yeah, he's right here. He's right here in miniature form. I'm sure there'll be an illustration in the book. Yeah, he got a big cover illustration. What a piece of plastic. So forest trolls. Oh, where's that big blue dog? There we go. An old stone giant. A rune giant. Oh, here he is. Oh, he gets his own entry. Blodauga. Okay. Bludahada. I've been saying that wrong, have I? Bludahada. I'm putting an L in there somewhere. Who doesn't fall in love with a grumpy and evil yet melancholic outcast forest giant from the far and icy plains of the north? Bludahada came to be one of the favorite characters and villains of them all within the world of Trudvang. He first appears in the adventure Wildheart, where he plays a minor role, and later in the epic adventure Snowsaga. Bludhaga is the center of which the adventure evolves. The name Bludhaga was taken from the Old Nordic mythology and actually means with blood in hair. Just like all good villains, he ultimately sacrifices himself in the cause of good, yet his soul is filled with evil and hate toward the world. Bludhaga has the blueprint of how frost giants should be designed and played. Theodore Bergqvist came up with the very first idea of having horns growing from the back of his head like a goat, and Paul Bonner executed it into a true masterpiece, also inspired by Alvaro Tapia's design on the frost troll's tusks. Yeah, here's the nice cover art, that fight in the pass. Yeah, so he is the frost giant that amasses the armies in the main campaign for Trudvang Legends. Bludgada. Sailing in the Lojgurten waters. Oh yeah, so sea giants. Logurjotens, yeah. So sea giants, yeah. Logurjotens. Storm giants? Dead giants. Yeah, look at that. Nice. With a goat on his back. A dead giant. Dragonkin. Elven slayers. Giants and giant wolves have always been main villains and evil creatures in Nordic sagas and mythology, while the dragons have only played a minor role. Yet dragons and fantasy are so deeply connected that we just simply had to come up with a unique and interesting concept for them as well. Throughout the years, we came to develop many takes on dragons. One of them was to tie the history of the dragons into the history of the elves. The dragons came to be the dark side of the creation and the shadow creature. Nonetheless, one of our favorite ideas was the concept of the classic Hydra. In Trudvang, we gave it the name Hurfordrak, the Hurford in Old Swedish name for head, Huford, and changing the D to an R is common when we try to give it a more Icelandic touch. Drake is the name for dragon in Swedish. That's not so interesting, but when Magnus Malmberg came up with the idea that every time a head for the dragon is cut off, it should mutate into something else. And the more times the head is cut off, the more times it mutates. We gave the Hydra a truly unique Trudvang touch. Another interesting dragon creature is the Thorn Beast. Whereas we came up with the idea to connect the beast with the wild folk, they lived with bats that they fed with narcotic roots called thorn root, which made the bat grow into a beast. So somehow we felt that even though giants and wolves were of great importance for Trudvang, we truly came to find a place for the dragonkin as well. That's right, the thorn beasts are bats. There's a thorn beast. Battles with dragons. The Iron Dragon. Whoa. A very large dragon. Who is this? Yeah, oh, that's a thorn beast. They're ridden. The Wildlanders riding. That's right, the more stooped neck. Meeting with a lindworm. Oh, that's it, yeah. That same pale worm. There he is again. The lindworm. Yeah, and really interesting, less... Oh, there we go. And there's the heads, yeah. The heads infinitely mutating and turning into something else as you cut them off. More heads and more heads. Yeah, this one as well. Yeah, the Hereford Drake. Nice. Head dragon. The Hydra. Hooved. Undeads. Creature. If Ludhaga was the main villain in the epic adventure Snowsaga, Niflfang was the one in the follow-up adventure called Storm of the Undead. We gave Niflfang a somewhat twisted story and background. In ancient times, he was hunted by the elves in the battle between elves and dragons. Wounded and weak, he fled to the kingdom of the undead. There the goddess Bloodvidur gave him his own domain and protected him from the elves. Slowly, the dragon turned into an undead creature himself. He played a role in Snowsaga as well, but in the Storm of the Undead, he was the mastermind behind the full story. The undead play an important role in Trudvang. It put flesh to the bone, but also an ancient touch to the world. They are strong and wicked, always with some strange feature or item that gives them their powers. Also, the traditional Scandinavian sagas are filled with undead creatures and beasts in the Twilight world. However, despite the major zombie trend, we never considered the idea of introducing zombies into Trudvang. It just doesn't make sense. Nice. Yes, the Drog. Barrow White. The Disir. The Mylings. Yeah, the childlike forms of undead. The Mist and the Undead. So the mist and fog has always been surrounded with great mystery and force, and a force of nature connected with the unknown. In Trudvang, we took it one step further and created a whole world and dimension called Misterhall, including a lot of magical and fearsome creatures. The mist came to symbolize the weird, twisted, and spooky, something that connected Trudvang with the worlds of the gods and realms of the dead. The Nordic sagas are rich in tales about creatures of the twilight, hiding in the morning haze, so we had an endless source of material to draw from. Mr. Hall. Leaked Kube. Lots of creepy undead. Oknit. Beasts and beings. Under the category Oknit, you will find everything from mystical forces of nature to great animals, beasts, and beings. Here you will find the more distinguished creatures of nature that one can see throughout the lands. It is not particularly hard to find Oknit that fit into the world of Trudvang. There is almost an endless pool to draw from in the forms of stories of old, which tell of Oknit that lurk in the forest once dusk has settled, and our job has been to Trudvangify these Oknit so that they fit well into the world of Trudvang. But it is not only the Swedish treasure of story that has served as the inspiration. The Troll Bull is Trudvang's version of the Minotaur, and the Hjuld is Trudvang's answer to the Egyptian Sphinx, that cautiously guard its treasure, only granting access to the ones who can answer its riddles. Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, many. We touched upon all of these. The Huldars, many in the bestiary. Huldars. Yeah, really great stuff. Speaking with the Yggdrasirs. The Yggdrasir themselves. Wow, nice. Griffin hunting. A griffin hunting. Not hunting for griffin. Oh, nice. Hmm. Oh. Logi. Are these the spirits in the Logia furnace? Galtier. The troll bull. Yeah, very minotaur looking. Really good. Shields. Oh, so that, yeah, that's the harpy. Shield attacking. Yeah, the harpy looking creatures. So these are the ones with the riddles guarding the way. Giant spiders. Yeah, I liked the mythology and background of the spiders, especially the connection to the elves, because spiders are ancient, very, very old, alone in the woods. Giant sea worm. Nightmare. Brooknock. Yeah, the river horse, I think, in Basin. Whoa, nice. Barrow white? What are these? Wow. Wow, really nice. So Drogar. Yeah, so lots of skeletons. Oh, that's it. Yeah, our last one. Nice. And a bat. It looks like they ended with a type of vampire bat. Wow. So that is it. That is the Fabulous Art of Trudvang. Well, I think we'll do it a little short, so I won't mix up the videos too much. We've still got the Stories of Trudvang, that collection of short stories that they released as a PDF. So there's no physical object to look at. So maybe I'll come up with a slideshow or something for the audio of that. And then also we'll do a separate video on the 5e conversion and take a look at how they ruined the magic and made it, made clerics and magic users and spell slots and everything. And, just 5e defied Trudvang with death saves and everything. So we'll take a look at that, that as well. So thank you for joining me. So tomorrow we're going to be going back to the Swords of the Serpentine. So there will be an actual play stream. So probably no stream tomorrow night because of that gaming stream. And then I'll come back with either the stories or 5e. And we'll do some more Trudvang for the rest of December. So thank you so much for joining me. It's good to see everybody in the chat. Abyss, nice. Yeah, great art. Yeah, very good stuff. All right. So, thank you so much. And thanks to the members and patrons for making this all possible. Lots of Trudvang source, and hopefully, in the coming year, a nice big campaign from Free League to support their, the release of this setting in a more appropriate system. We'll see how that goes. So until I see you again. So I'll be back. You'll hear me at least for Swords of the Serpentine, and we'll be back with more Trudvang. Thanks and good night. Bye.